My sister laughed when she inherited our family home alone, leaving me with nothing. Now she's begging me to save it. I'm 34, and I have an older sister, Sophie, who's 37. Growing up, I always knew our parents favored her, but I didn't realize how deep it ran until everything came crashing down. Our family dynamic wasn't just strained. It was warped, tilted entirely in Sophie's favor. Whatever Sophie wanted, she got. And if anything good happened to me, she had a way of twisting it until it didn't feel like a win at all. When my parents passed away last year, I thought maybe things would change. Maybe there'd finally be a moment of balance, a chance for me to have some piece of the family legacy. But when the will was read, Sophie got everything. The family home, this big, beautiful Victorian house where we'd grown up, went solely to her. I was given a measly savings account that didn't even cover my rent for a year. And while I sat there, stunned, feeling like the floor had fallen out from under me, Sophie laughed. "Yeah, you read that right." She laughed. I can still see the smirk on her face, that little gleam in her eye as she said, "Guess they knew who'd appreciate it more, huh?" I didn't say anything. I just got up and walked out. What could I even say? I'd already been excluded from the family story in a way I couldn't argue. Sophie was our parents' golden child, and I was the one they could forget about. She'd inherited the house, but I was left with every painful memory of being second best. I didn't even contest the will. I just wanted to move on, to put the whole ugly mess behind me. But, of course, Sophie wouldn't let that happen. A few months later, out of the blue, Sophie called me. She sounded desperate, practically frantic. It turned out that keeping up the family home wasn't as easy as she'd thought. The house was old, big, and needed a ton of repairs. And then there were the property taxes and the mortgage, which she'd also inherited, with a fat interest rate she hadn't noticed until it was too late. She was drowning. "Listen, I could really use some help here," she said. "I mean, it's our family home. Don't you care about it at all?" I almost laughed. Our family home? She'd laughed in my face when I got nothing. But now that she was in trouble, she wanted to pretend we were a team? "Sell it," I said. "You're clearly in over your head." There was silence on her end, and I could practically hear her bristling at the suggestion. She was silent for a second, then went on with this wounded voice like I'd just slapped her. "But it's our home," she repeated softer this time. "I thought you'd care about keeping it in the family." "Family," I said, shaking my head. "Really? Because last I checked, you didn't care about family when you laughed in my face at the will reading. Are you seriously going to hold on to that?" "It was a joke," she snapped, like I was being petty. "You know I didn't mean it that way. I just thought you'd appreciate the significance of this house, even if you didn't inherit it." I couldn't even process her nerve. "Sophie, you think it's fair for you to call me out of nowhere months later, to ask for my help with the house you inherited alone? Oh, come on, it's not like you can't afford it," she said, exasperated. "You're a financial advisor. What's the point of all that knowledge if you can't use it to help family?" The irony made me laugh cold and bitter. "Funny. You didn't seem too interested in my finances when our parents cut me out." "Fine," she snapped, her voice turning icy. "Fine, if you want to hold grudges, I'll figure something else out." "Good luck, Sophie," I said and hung up. I was half expecting her to call back immediately, but she didn't. For weeks, there was nothing, just this weird silence. I started to feel guilty, like maybe I'd overreacted, even though I knew she'd put herself in this mess. But then I heard through a mutual friend that Sophie was struggling to find a buyer. Apparently, she hadn't done any maintenance since she'd inherited it, and the place was falling apart. She'd also been skipping out on property taxes for years, and the back taxes alone were massive. She was stuck, and I was her last hope. Then she tried a different angle. She called and left voicemails acting all humble, saying she'd never expected this from me, that she thought I'd be more understanding. That made my blood boil. It's like she thought she could guilt me into helping, that if she pushed the right buttons, I'd fall in line. But I couldn't shake a memory of another time she'd needed something from me. Years ago, when I was fresh out of college, Sophie had asked me for a loan. She said it was for a small bind, that she'd totally pay me back in a few months. I was young and naive, so I gave her money from my own savings, assuming she'd keep her word. She never paid it back. And when I asked her about it, she'd laughed it off, saying, "Oh, come on, your family. Are we really going to keep score?" That phrase haunted me now. Keep score. That's how she'd framed it. like I was a bad brother for wanting my money back. I'd shrugged it off back then, thinking maybe she really was just going through a rough time. But now I knew better. She didn't see me as her brother. She saw me as an ATM. I wasn't family, I was just a resource. Weeks went by, and one evening, she called me again and I picked up, hoping for some shred of humility. But no, she had her claws out. "I thought you might have grown up a bit by now," she snapped, the desperation giving way to anger. "But I see you're still the same, always playing the victim. Do you even know how much this house means to me?" I laughed, and it was colder than I'd meant it to be. "Really, Sophie? You think I care about the house? You mean the house you took from me and then laughed about? That was just one thing, one moment. Don't act like I haven't been there for you when it mattered." "When exactly?" I asked, genuinely curious. She stumbled over her words, going silent for a moment, and then she changed tactics. "Look, I thought you'd actually care about preserving the family legacy. It's just sad, really. But fine. I don't need you." The call ended in a heated argument, but I didn't lose sleep over it. I was done. A few months later, a strange letter arrived from a lawyer representing my parents' estate. Sophie, in her desperation, had tried to rework the mortgage and signed away partial ownership of the house without realizing what she was doing. I now legally owned half the house. I was floored. I'd thought the situation was over, but now, legally, I was in the picture whether I wanted to be or not. Sophie found out, of course, and was livid. "What the hell did you do?" she screamed over the phone. "Me? I didn't do anything, Sophie. You signed it over. I'm just half owner now. You stole it from me," she yelled, accusing me of manipulating her. "No, I think this is called karma, Sophie. You wanted me out, and now here I am," I replied, and for once I didn't feel guilty. It felt justified. She couldn't stand it. She tried every trick in the book: guilt trips, anger, empty apologies. When that didn't work, she tried manipulating friends and family to pressure me. I had people calling, saying, "Come on, you two are family. Just help her out." I was over it. I'd spent too much of my life bending over backward for Sophie, and I wasn't doing it anymore. The situation got uglier. Sophie refused to sell, insisting she'd find a way to get out of the mess herself. But no miracle arrived, and she fell deeper into debt, refusing every offer that came her way. The house kept falling apart, and every month the debt grew. Finally, she had no choice but to let me list it with her. Sophie and I had a few tense meetings with real estate agents, sitting on opposite sides of the table like strangers. She kept her voice polite and professional, but I could feel her anger simmering under the surface. She hated that I was there, that I had any claim on the home at all. But she'd finally run out of options. The offers started rolling in, and they were higher than we'd anticipated. After paying off the mortgage, the taxes, and the back fees, there was still a decent amount left. For the first time, I was actually gaining something from this ordeal. The satisfaction of finally getting a fair share, the share I'd been denied for so long, was unlike anything I'd felt before. It was as if the scales had finally tipped in my favor, and for once, I didn't feel small or insignificant. I felt vindicated. But then came the final negotiation, and Sophie's entitlement flared up again, almost like clockwork. We were sitting across from the lawyer, reviewing how the profits would be divided. Since I now held half ownership of the house, the proceeds were split equally. That's when Sophie decided to throw one last fit. "Half? Are you serious?" She nearly spat, eyes wide and full of resentment. "I'm the one who lived there, who maintained it." I looked at her, genuinely incredulous. "You mean the house that's practically falling apart because you let it rot?" "Sophie, if anyone did maintenance on it, I'd have never been dragged into this mess." "Oh, please don't act like you weren't sitting back and waiting for this. You never wanted the house. You just wanted a payout," she shot back, her face twisted with anger. I took a deep breath, refusing to let her get to me. "You got everything, Sophie. You got the house, the memories, the keepsakes. I got nothing. And when you needed my help, I still tried to be civil about it. But this," I gestured to the contract, sitting right between us. "This is the consequence of your choices." She scoffed. "Right, so you're just going to play the poor victim card forever?" That hit a nerve, but I kept my voice steady. "No, I'm not playing anything. I just finally stopped letting you treat me like an afterthought." The lawyer, who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else, handed us both the documents to sign. As I scrawled my signature, I felt a strange kind of closure, a feeling of finally putting an end to something that had loomed over me for years. But Sophie, she just sat there, glaring at the papers like they were some kind of betrayal. It was the first time I'd ever seen her so cornered, and I realized that for her, this wasn't just about money or the house. It was about control. Sophie had always controlled everything, the narrative, our parents, and me. But now, for once, she couldn't have things her way, and it was driving her insane. She signed the papers with a dramatic sigh, muttering under her breath, "Guess family doesn't mean anything to some people." That was it. I'd had enough. I looked at her, this time not with anger, but with pity. "Sophie, family means a lot to me. But it means respect, too. And that's something you've never shown me." She didn't respond. For once, Sophie was out of words. After the sale was finalized, I didn't hear from her. It was strange, this silence, like a vacuum where all that tension and bitterness had been. And though a part of me felt guilty, years of conditioning telling me I should reach out, make peace, I knew this was the healthiest distance I'd ever had from her. It was freeing. Months went by, and slowly I started to rebuild. I invested my half of the profits wisely, set aside some savings, and even bought myself a small condo. It wasn't anything like the family home, but it was mine, a place that felt safe, free from all the baggage Sophie and I had dragged with us through the years. One afternoon, while I was settling into my new space, my phone buzzed. I looked down and saw Sophie's name. She hadn't called me since the sale, and a pit formed in my stomach. I debated ignoring it, but some old habit, a lifetime of being the good brother, pushed me to pick up. "Hello." There was a pause, then a familiar sigh. "It's me," she said, as though I wouldn't recognize her voice. "Listen, I wanted to talk." I waited, not sure what she expected. For once, she sounded tired, like the fight had finally gone out of her. "Look, I don't know what happened," she started, her voice soft, almost vulnerable. "We used to be close, didn't we?" That question took me off guard, and I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and something close to pity. Close. Maybe once, when we were kids, before life and favoritism warped us. But in adulthood, we'd never really been close. Not like she wanted to believe. "Sophie, I think we need to face the truth," I said slowly, choosing my words carefully. "We grew up with a lot of imbalance. Our parents put you on a pedestal, and I was always made to feel like the extra. And honestly, I don't think you ever really saw me as your equal." She stayed quiet, letting me speak, which was rare for her. Maybe finally she was ready to listen. "I've spent years bending over backward, trying to prove myself, to you, to them. And every time I tried, you found a way to put me back in my place. So no, I don't think we were ever close, not like real siblings should be." She let out a shaky breath, and for the first time, she sounded genuinely remorseful. I guess I didn't see it that way," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought that's how it was supposed to be." "That's the problem, Sophie," I replied. "You never stopped to consider how it felt for me." Another silence stretched between us, thick and tense, and I wondered if this was the moment. If she'd finally apologize, if this would be some kind of turning point. But old habits die hard. "Well, it's too late now, isn't it?" she said finally, bitterness creeping back into her voice. "What's done is done." And with that, the fragile bridge we'd started to build shattered. She couldn't do it. She couldn't let go of her resentment. Couldn't admit her mistakes in any real, meaningful way. Sophie was Sophie through and through. "Yeah," I said, resigned. "I guess it is." I hung up, and as the silence returned, I felt lighter. It was the last call I'd ever get from her, and deep down, I knew it was for the best. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to fix. Looking back, I've realized that family isn't just about blood or history. It's about respect, trust, and a willingness to put each other's needs above your own, even when it's hard. Sophie had been given every chance to be family, and she'd chosen control, entitlement, and manipulation over and over again. And I'd spent my life believing I had to tolerate it, because that's just what families did. But no more. I'd found my own peace, and with that, I'd finally let her go. Maybe somewhere down the line she'd find it too. But that wasn't my burden to carry anymore.